This is Fountain
Every
Street
week I find
Church.
it hard to find the best ones, but somehow, like I said, you'll hear what I'm trying to say even when the words
Here,
aren't right.
we strive to free the mind, grow the soul, and change the world. Here, there is freedom to doubt and freedom to believe. Here, you can find a house of prayer for all people.
The swallow up Jonah.
Welcome to Fountain Street Church. Join us on the journey.
I know Seymour's the greatest, but I'm dating a semi-sadist. So I got a black eye and my arms in a cast. Still, that Seymour's a cutie. Well, if not, he's got inner beauty. And I dream of a place where we can be together at last. It's just a little development I dream of, just off the interstate. Well, not fancy like Levittown, just a little street in a little suburb, far, far from urban Skid Row. The sweetest, greenest place where everybody has the same little lawn out front and the same little flagstone patio out back. Oh, the houses are so neat and pretty. Well, 'cause they all look just alike. I dream about it all the time. Just me and a toaster and a sweet little guy like Seymour. A matchbox of our own, a fence of real chain link, a grill out on the patio, disposal in the sink, a washer and a dryer, and an ironing machine in the tract house that we share, somewhere that's green. He rakes and trims the grass. He loves to mow and weed. I cook like Betty Crocker, and I look like Donna Reed. There's plastic on the furniture to keep it neat and clean. In the pine sol scented air, somewhere that's green. Between our frozen dinner and our bedtime 9:15, we snuggle watching Lucy on our big, enormous 12-inch screen. I'm his December bride. He's father, he knows best. Our kids watch Howdy Doody as the sun sets in the west. A picture out of Better Homes and Gardens magazine. Far from Skid Row, I dream we'll go somewhere that's green.
Thank you so much. And also to our guest musicians and to the junior choir. Obviously, the adult choir is resting for their big occasion, so it's a really full day here. It was a full week for me. Even when I was away, I was performing my first legal same-sex wedding. So I get to sign a license for 2 wonderful women. That was thrilling for me. I came back, though, to do other good duty, take part in 2 memorial services, which, as hard as they are, also feel terrifically meaningful and valuable. But that means that last Monday I did a wedding. On Wednesday I took part in 1 funeral. On Saturday another funeral. Now we just did I'm a little more tired than I expected to be this week. And I'm also a little tired of winter. Anybody else want to get in line with me on that one? Although I have to admit, while I was away for a few days, I did make time to see some friends, even a few relatives, people I haven't seen for more than a year. And in spite of the fact that New York City was cold and wet and snowy, just like here, it was a warm time. So I'm grateful for that. Sometimes I feel we have to choose between happiness and responsibility. Is that the way you think too? I think sometimes we do, but I'm hoping that as the future moves on, I can find a way to bring them closer together, and maybe in the minutes we have together, we can feel, if not happiness, a sense of meaning, and if not responsibility, a sense of connection. May these words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be found true in thy sight, thou who art my rock and my Redeemer. You probably recognize the title of the sermon as coming out of what is called the Lord's Prayer, because it often ends, if you're in a Protestant church at least, with, and to the power and the glory forever and ever. But you see, if you look it up in the Bible, you're not going to find those words there. Those words don't live in the Gospels. They were added on by the early church that wanted to make it sound more important. And if you go to a Roman Catholic church, you'll discover that the words are there, but they're separated. And the priest says those because it's really not part of the prayer of Jesus. If you're a literary person, and someone I saw in this morning's service noted that phrase, the power and the glory, was picked up by the author Graham Greene in a book he wrote. In that book, he titled years ago about an alcoholic priest in revolutionary Mexico who was being hounded by the local police lieutenant. I took a quick look at that and found this wonderful passage that kind of brings some of the theme I want to share into focus this morning. Graham writes, how often the priest had heard the same confession. Man was so limited, he hadn't even the ingenuity to invent new vices. It was for this world that Christ had died. The more evil you saw and heard about you, the greater the glory lay around death. It was too easy to die for what was good or beautiful, for home or children or civilization. It needed a God to die for the half-hearted and the corrupt. An interesting turn. Wouldn't we all say we would hand over our lives for our children, sometimes for our country? Would you hand over your life for someone you don't know, or for someone who is rather squalid? Who knows? It's an interesting question, though, about the mediocrities of some evils. All Lent I've been talking about sin and evil and other unpleasant facts, as T.S. Eliot called them. I've explored a variety of ideas about them, accompanied by outrageous music from that musical Little Shop of Horrors. That part in particular prompted a couple of people to write me. They were sent without a signature, but they weren't mean letters. They were just saying, well, I'll get to that in a little, the particulars. I will address them later because they raise the question I want to raise. But they speak to where I want to go in terms of the topic of temptation. Compare Greene's comments about the priest with Palm Sunday. If you know the story, and most of you do, it's a festive occasion. Jesus riding a donkey into Jerusalem, people praising him like King David. Indeed, the words that they say, "Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord," come from Psalm 118, that passage you heard earlier. What are we to make of these two notions of a corrupt world in which a priest who is alcoholic has nothing but contempt for those he serves, and this story of a prophet riding in glory into Jerusalem? Well, for that I want to tell you a story to go along with it. So you get three stories: Graham Greene, Palm Sunday, and this one that I heard years ago. I've cleaned it up a little bit. It's faintly risque. But we're Fountain Street Church. You're tough. You can do that, right? So it seems that when Sam died, that's a fictional Sam, by the way, he arrived at the gates of heaven having never committed a single sin. And God meets him at the pearly gates and says, "This is a problem, Sam. No one ever got in here without committing a single sin. If I let you in, it means raising the bar for everyone else. And that would leave everybody out. No can do, Sam. So I got to send you back to earth. You're going to have to commit a sin, one sin, before I can let you in." And just like that, Sam found himself sitting at a bar in the bad part of town. Now, getting drunk is not a sin. It might be a shame, but it's not a sin. And he looked around and there was no one rich enough to rob, and he really wasn't interested in starting a fight with anyone. What was he going to do? And he thought and thought and looked around, and then